So the Las Vegas Raiders finally fired Antonio Pierce. I'm surprised he didn't get fired on Monday. Instead, they opted to wait another extra 24 hours. It was kind of funny because Antonio Pierce actually had a quote saying he hasn't heard anything differently in regards to being the head coach of the Raiders on Monday night. And sure enough, 12 hours later, he got let go. Not really a surprising move at all. I think Antonio Pierce did what he could with the Raiders. Obviously, he wasn't really a very exceptional coach. A lot of really questionable decisions this past year when he was the Raiders head coach. I just remember a lot of times when he would opt to kick field goals instead of going for it on fourth downs and just not being very aggressive in kind of the fourth down department. But he seems like a player's coach, and honestly, he seems like a decent dude. So I hope the best for him, and I'm sure he'll land in a good position somewhere else, probably as a positional coach. I'm curious to see where he will end up. But that's the thing too, man. This isn't a surprise to anybody. He obviously took over a pretty bare bones roster, and they just didn't do too much this year. And when your quarterback room consists of Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, and Desmond Ridder, you're kind of set up to fail. But it is what it is, and he got the head coaching gig for a reason. When he was the interim head coach, the Raiders went on a pretty good run there at the tail end of the year, including a W against the Chiefs on Christmas Day in 2023. So, thank you for your service, Antonio Pierce. I'm sure Raiders fans don't really hate him, but who knows? I could be wrong. I feel like some might do. If you're a Raiders fan, let me know what you think about Antonio Pierce. Are you sad to see him go, or did you want him to stay for another year? Let me know in the comments below. Now, this really signals a brand new era, in my opinion, for the Las Vegas Raiders franchise, mainly due to the fact that Brady has taken a larger role in ownership, and that officially got done 2 months ago. So this is the first offseason that the Raiders will have Brady as officially part owner of the Raiders. So I'm curious to see if they do anything different. I'm curious to see if they're more aggressive or what kind of moves they make. And of course, that starts with finding a new head coach. They opted to keep their GM, Tom Telesco. I don't know if that was the right move or not, but I'm sure the Raiders just didn't want to have the hassle of finding a new head coach and new GM in the same offseason, because trying to fill those two vacancies in one offseason is definitely a headache. But Raiders fans, you let me know in the comments below, would you have liked to see Tom Telesco be fired too? Let me know in the comments. Now, as far as who the Raiders will probably get for their head coaching position, I don't expect it to be a big name, just because it's not a really desirable landing spot, in my opinion, especially when you don't have a quarterback and when there's other jobs that do have a quarterback. With, you have the Bears and Caleb, and you have Patriots and Drake May. Sure, he's unproven, but he has potential to be something. Trevor Lawrence is at least like a top 20 guy, so it's better than Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And if you really take that into account, I don't expect them to get a big name. I really expect the Raiders to kind of hire a coordinator, first-time head coach. Now, I'm sure they're going to request interviews for Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, all the big-name coordinators right now. I don't expect either of them to take the Raiders' head coaching position, especially Ben Johnson. The dude is obviously very picky with him turning down the Commanders' head coaching job from a year ago. So I don't really see him taking this Raiders job. But But I think there is a short list of names that the Raiders will probably heavily look into, and I'm sure they'll hire one of these guys down the road. And I think the list will probably look something like this: Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken, Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady, and maybe Mike Kafka. But who knows? I could definitely see the Raiders hiring a defensive-minded head coach, a defensive coordinator as well. I just feel like Joe Brady has been heating up a lot the past week. Same with Todd Monken. I think one of those two guys may definitely get a head coaching gig, and I just feel like Joe Brady or a guy like Tampa Bay Buccaneers OC Liam Cohen could definitely get a head coaching gig for this upcoming offseason. Kind of like a Dave Canales situation from a year ago where the Carolina Panthers job wasn't really a hot commodity, but you know, and because of that, they hired a first-time head coach in Dave Canales, and I just feel like the Raiders will follow the same formula because they kind of have to, because like I mentioned, it's not really a desirable job. So you let me know who you think the Raiders will hire and who do you want them to hire. Raiders fans, I'm really curious what you think. It's tough. If the Raiders had a quarterback, I would definitely opt for them to hire an offensive coordinator. But because they don't have a quarterback in the room right now, and they're not really in a position to draft, Cam Ward or Shador Sanders for this upcoming draft, maybe it's in their best interest to hire a defensive-minded guy. So I don't know. Maybe a guy like Robert Saleh. That's you know, a lot of people can. A lot of people have their opinion on him, on whether or not he was a good head coach with the Jets. I think he was decent, man. I think he was decent. And you know what? It didn't work out in New York, but maybe it would work out with the Raiders. And, you know, I don't think he's going to be a big popular name for this upcoming offseason with head coaching vacancies. So I feel like the Raiders and him could have some mutual interest to a certain extent. And I'd love to see it, man. Salah seems like a good guy, and I'd like to get him. I'd like to see him have one more shot because it's kind of hard to judge whether or not someone is good when they're just attached to the Jets organization. It's just a cursed franchise at this point, and it just stinks. So I was Brady. If I was in that ownership group, I would definitely be pulling for Robert Saleh, some sort of culture guy. You know what I mean? Of course, if things were different, obviously I'd opt for an offensive-minded guy, but that's not the case right now. So I think the Raiders should play to their strengths and bring in a defensive guy with some experience, perhaps. But you let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you think Robert Saleh and the Raiders would be a good match? Let me know. If you made this far, please subscribe and like the vid. It'd help out your boy a ton. That's all I got for right now. Peace.
Situations like this, it really comes down to one thing. Can the offensive line continue to dominate?
The Jets take it from the 43. Almost intercepted. On the way, third down. The Jets have to get to the 49 for a first. Dropping back now into the shotgun. It's intercepted. He's brought down. The Jets' last possession ended painfully with a pick. And I wonder how they're going to handle the football this time around, Phil.
Well, listen, I think they'll handle it a little differently, no doubt. I thought it was a bad call on the interception and just put the quarterback and the offense in such a bad situation, and they were not able to overcome that.
Second down and 7. Brandon Marshall has the grab. That That's his first reception today. How about the way he always locks in and concentrates on the catch?
Man, he's got hands like glue. When you shake his hand, he can break yours because that's how strong they are. So not surprised to see him just reach out and just snatch the football out of the air.
No separation at all. Incomplete.
Well, your teammates are really going to respect you after something like this. Anytime you're on that field as an athlete, and when you give all your effort to every single play like that time, how about that? Just giving every bit of effort he can to make the catch. Not able to get it,